Welcome back to BK Nothing But Nets. We got some breaking Cam Thomas news. Uh, I said it with Dylan the other day that I think the Nets have Cam Thomas has played his last game for the Nets. That may be closer to a reality than even I thought. I'm joined here with Pete over at Nets Fans who's been doing big things. He's your source for all Nets news, my Brooklyn Net insider. Pete, how's it going?
I'm not an insider, but thank you
You
for
are
the thank
absolutely
you
an
for the praise.
insider.
I'm definitely not, but I'm good, man. I like to say that I'm shocked by the news, but I think I've been talking to you about it for a while now about the possibility of this happening.
Yeah, no. Again, it's always a surprise when it happens, but I feel like we should have seen this coming. I said the other day with Dylan, I think he's played his last game as a Brooklyn Net. I don't see any point in bringing him back. I want to start with this. Well, tell them what you got going on with over at nothing. Nothing but Nets. No, I'm nothing but Nets. Tell everyone what you got over with Net fans.
Sure, you guys can check me out, NetFans, on YouTube and Twitter. I do a podcast, about 3 of them per month. I try to make it every week. I've had guys like Anthony Anderson on, uh, team beat writers, like all that good stuff. You can check it out at NetFans, on YouTube and Twitter.
So let me start with this, Pete. And if I call you Dylan, forgive me. I'm just always used
You've
to
done it for a
asking
while
more.
now, so I'm used to it.
Yeah. Uh, what do you think the trade value, realistically, what's a destination for Cam Thomas, and what do you think the return is for Cam Thomas at this point?
That's 2 questions. So I'm going to go with trade value first. I think it's depending on the team. Like, are you going to get back a contract from them? Is it a team with cap room so the deal could be done a lot easier without taking back much? But if we're just going to talk, like, what would a straight up deal look like? I would say at the very best, a protected first, and at the worst, probably like 1 second, 2 seconds. Yep.
Okay, then who would be in the market? I got a couple of teams in mind. We'll compare notes, but using your basketball mind, your basketball knowledge, who do you think would be potential suitors? Like, who would want Cam Thomas?
So I looked at the rosters of a couple teams, looked at the contracts, what picks they had. A couple teams came to mind, but just seeing how this makes too much sense. I think Houston would be a team that you could look at. I know that's what everybody's been saying, and for good reason. It makes sense. KD likes Cam Thomas. They have lots of picks, and Houston could be very creative. I talked to you about this. If Houston was open to this, maybe you could see a deal of the Nets getting back Clint Capella. He has $9 million left on his contract this year and 2 more years going forward. And for the pick, you could just say, you know what? Instead of giving me back a first, why don't we do a protection on the swap? Make it like top 3 protected. So if the Nets fall into the top 3 next year, they would be able to keep their pick. I think something like that could be creative. Would Houston do it? I don't know.
So my question with Houston, and I get on to if you have any other teams in mind, can we get our pick swap back? Is that a possibility? Is something? Can we take on a bad contract? Is there any way to get to re-swap the picks to take to reverse the pick swap, if that makes sense?
Absolutely. And if you're on drugs, that'd be like the only way to do it. At least for this deal, right? Can we find a deal between the Nets and Houston that would allow that to happen? Sure, right? But as far as for Cam Thomas, I think his value is just so hurt by the fact that everyone and their mama knows that he wants to go to a new team. The Nets aren't going to keep him. And the Nets really have only till the trade deadline to get anything back of value.
Yeah, because getting that pick unswapped or reswapped or however you want to look at
It would
would
be
be my
unswapped. You would just take
yeah.
off the swap. That's what you would call it. Yeah.
Right. We all know what I'm trying to say. Right.
Yeah.
Unswap. Right. That would be priority 1, 2, and 3 if Houston was interested in Cam. I think they would have some interest in him. I just don't know. Like you're saying that's just way too much asking, right? Even if I took on a bad contract, they don't have a contract bad enough that would make that trade appealing. Is what you're saying?
I don't think so. It would have to be. I don't even know if the Nets even have the players to make it happen. If I traded, not even looking at the rosters right now, if I put Cam Thomas, Claxton, and trade them for expirings, I don't know if that would be enough to let go of a swap. You know, it really it would depend how Houston values them, and if Cam Thomas is actually going to have a market.
Then the question becomes how quickly and how competitive can we be next season? Can we be a playing team next year? I mean, because then like if we're trading a top 5 pick for a, Houston could be 28th, 29th, 30th pick in the draft, and we're trading a top 10 pick for that. That's really going to sting.
So let me ask you a question. If I told you you could brighten your team's future with keeping assets and extra cap room, if all you had to do was go 15 picks worse than what you are now, would you do that for the next 2 to 3, 4, 5 years?
But ask me that question again.
Okay, I'll break it down.
Yeah.
Right now, you're picking at pick number, I'm going to just make this up. Maybe like pick 10, okay?
10. Okay.
We're picking at 10, and I told you you could free up all your cap space. You could add 3 to 4 picks, 2 to 3 picks, whatever it may be, a couple first rounders, and all you had to do was go from 10 to 25 in one draft. Would you do that? Open up your cap room and get multiple first rounders.
I would do it for the cap space. Yeah, I would do it for the cap space.
Really? So that means so if the Nets were picking 10th and Houston was picking 25th, instead of going out and getting guys who would flood up your cap space and having to give up picks to get them, you'd keep all your assets and then you would just pick lower. So you just agreed to what?
Yeah,
that's essentially what you're doing. Because if you're gonna get players to make them competitive next year, you're gonna give up picks and cap space. And really all you're doing is just moving maybe 10, 15 spots. Could there be a scenario where the Nets pick first and Houston picks 30th? Yeah, there can be a scenario. But if I had to take a guess, I think the Nets will take a step forward next year.
I think so too. And it's starting to, and this is a perfect segue. And this is what I wanted to see. It looks like the Nets are starting to take a step forward now. Right? I mean, is it just me, or do you see the Nets offense better without Cam Thomas in it?
And it's tough. What I think it is, I've looked at the advanced stats. One of the worst stats for like defensive rating in the NBA is a lineup that includes CT, Michael Porter Jr., Saraf, I forgot who the other player was, and Clax. I think the defense of having both of them in at the same time was just horrific, totally horrific. And maybe it's not the offense, but I think it's the defense getting a lot better. That's what I think it is, really. It's not even the offense. Does the offense look a little bit better? Yes, it does look a little bit better. But I think the big difference is on defense.
The development that we've seen in Clowney, the development that we've seen in Wolf, the development that we've seen in Yegor, Drake Powell, who I still want to get more aggressive. Do you think we would see that progression with Cam Thomas in the lineup? If Cam Thomas is playing 30, 35 minutes a game, yeah?
Absolutely, because, like, is Igor playing in the fourth quarter now? Not really. He's going to get those same minutes. Is Wolf's minutes going to be affected by Cam Thomas? Probably not. I don't think so. A lot of Wolf's shots have been 3-point shots. I think he still takes those. I don't think you see that much of a change, really. But is the offense more, quote unquote, free flowing? Probably. Yeah, I could say that.
Well, let me push back on that. I don't think the ball moves as well. So I don't think Wolf is getting those open threes. I don't think Yegor has the ball in his hands. I think Cam Thomas, which we saw before he got injured, is just dominating the ball for 20 seconds out of the 24-second clock, right? Like, I mean, I don't think the ball moves as freely as it does now. And it's not moving as freely. Those guys don't have the ball in their hands to do what they do. Drake Powell might, because Drake Powell's a great spot up shooter. So his offense may be the same, but like Wolf and Yegor, I don't think they develop. And Clowney, I don't think they develop the way that they are now with Cam Thomas clogging everything up and pounding the ball for 20 seconds.
I want you to look at Yegor's stats, okay? He's
right.
taken, I think it's even less than, I think it may be 12 mid-range shots this year, the entire season. So I don't think I don't think Cam Thomas is affecting that much for at least him, right? Could you make an argument that, less of a ball hog helps the ball move around more? Sure. But the Nets offense is pretty much run from the elbow, and you have a lot of movement around. Cam Thomas isn't the best fit for the offense. So I could see what people would say when, it doesn't look as clean when he's in there, because Cam Thomas is more of a one-on-one player, playoff game, tight score, 2 minutes left, one-on-one defense, and you need to get a bucket. That is Cam Thomas's game. He's not a movement shooter. I think one thing that kind of hurts this year is that his assist number has dropped. I think he had about like 3 or 4 assists last year. It would have been nice to see him keep up that pace, but we haven't seen
it. So has he played his last game as a Brooklyn Net? Can I throw out my Cam Thomas jersey and never miss him again as a member of the Nets?
No, I think he's going to play. I think he's going to play in a couple more games. I think he has to prove that he's healthy for the teams that are going to trade for him. So no, I don't think he's played his last game as a Brooklyn Net. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I was going to say, that's the only thing. He's going to have to prove that he's healthy. So I do think that we'll see him again. Do I think he's going to be a starter? I don't think so. I think he comes off the bench. I think they give him the ball, let him show off some scoring. Is it the last months of him as a Net? Probably, but not the last game.
Okay. My guess, and I see your point. My point was the opposite. Is I've always looked at him the same way I looked at Zion Williamson. That's a pulled hamstring waiting to happen. You don't have legs like that, legs like fire hydrants. I think you're going to guard NBA players and cut all over the court and not pull hamstrings. Like NBA players typically don't have legs like that. His legs are like tree trunks. He's built like a fire hydrant. You're going to pull your hamstring. And to me, like, I don't want to risk him getting injured again when I'm this close to trading him. So I'm just going to sit him until I trade him. But you're right. You do want the other teams to think that he's healthy. So the only way I can prove that he's healthy.
No, not even think that he's healthy. The other teams are saying, listen, if I'm going to give you an asset, I need to know that this guy's healthy.
Yeah.
I need to. It's not like I'm not going to take your word for it. I need to know this guy is healthy. I want to see him play. I want to see him put up some numbers. Are they going to put him on a pedestal and make him start every game, play 40 minutes a game? No. But teams are going to want to see that they're getting the Cam Thomas they think they're getting and not a hamstrung version of him.
The other thing is Sean Marks has been reluctant to make trades. He held on to Cam Johnson until he got the perfect trade. He held on to Bridges till he got the perfect trade. But he did move Schroeder quickly. How quickly do you think he can move Cam Thomas? And is he going to continue to wait for the perfect deal? Or is he just going to look to get rid of him?
Because Cam Thomas can veto a trade, I don't think this is the case of finding the best deal possible. This is more of Sean Marks. These are the teams who I'm willing to go to. I've heard, you're going to have his agent reaching out to those teams. Maybe even right now, you're reaching out to teams to see who would be interested in trading for him. And the agent goes back to Sean Marks and says, these are the teams I approve for a trade. And then you go to the team. Let's say it's, for example, let's say it's Milwaukee, all right? So Cam Thomas's agent says, we're interested in going to Milwaukee. We would approve a trade there. Obviously, Milwaukee knows what's going on. Sean Marks knows what's going on. Sean Marks talks to Milwaukee. They find a deal there in which Milwaukee probably has a huge amount of leverage. And another thing is, if Cam Thomas is going to a Milwaukee, why would he want them to give up a lot to get him? He wants them to win. He wants them to be good enough to maybe get another asset if possible. So there's going to be a lot of wrangling done here.
I tend to agree. Do you think Cam Thomas is going to be cooperative? Do you think he's open to the trade? He's okay with the trade, or do you think he's going to be a dick about the trade and kind of drag his feet and drag this thing through the mud?
No, he wants to get out. He needs to get on another team as soon as possible, because all this now is a showcase for his next contract. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and teams want to see the game film. They want to see that he's recovered from the hamstring. They want to see what he looks like, right? So to get the best possible deal, you would hope, or Cam Thomas would hope, he goes to a playoff team and he plays well there. At the very least, he needs to go to a team that's going to give him a lot of playing time.
Who do you think that, like, if you had your crystal ball with you, it's got to fill two things. It's got to be a team that Cam Thomas is going to agree to go to, and it's got to be a team that wants Cam Thomas. So I think Golden State is out, right? Because I don't think Golden State would want Cam Thomas. Where do you see him? Where, after he's done with the Nets, what's his next team?
Okay, so are you telling me who's going to get traded?
Where is Cam Thomas going to play his next game after the Nets?
After the Nets. Because the team that he gets signed for in the offseason could be very different than the team that he plays for next. Man, thinking about it.
Yeah, who's he being traded? Yeah, who's he being traded to?
I think Houston just makes so much sense. You know, Ime Udoka knows CT. KD loves CT. You know, they're doing some great basketball out there, and they could use a punch from someone like CT in that lineup. They have a big lineup already, so CT's size won't kill them on defense because they'll have bigger guys playing around him. It just makes so much sense to have Cam Thomas on that roster. And they have, like I said before, they have the picks and the contracts to make it work.
I think Houston does make a bit of sense. The other team I've always mentioned, I've always talked about this with Dylan since we've been talking about trading him last year, is Milwaukee. Milwaukee's in cap hell. They need offense and they need it cheaply. Cam Thomas checks those boxes. I got to look at their draft capital. But yeah, I think Houston and Milwaukee are the teams that are most realistic. Giannis and Cam have a relationship. They have the same agent or something, right?
That I'm not sure of.
I'm pretty sure they have the same agent. So to me, Milwaukee makes a lot of sense. Houston makes a lot of sense. I would like to say Detroit. I would like to see if we can, like, if they're ready to move on from Jaden Ivey. I would like to examine that. I think Ivey's a guy worth bringing in to take a look at. He's on the last year of his rookie deal. If we like him, we can keep him. If not, it's off the books. And he actually makes more on his rookie deal than Cam makes right now. So we'd be doing them a financial favor. Does Detroit make any sense for the Pistons?
I was looking at their roster. It's going to be hard to find a player there to make it work, because I don't think they're going to want to give up someone of value.
Right.
You know, like Ivy I think is making like $10 million. If Detroit was totally done with them and really wanted CT, you could make a deal around that. But I don't think it makes sense for Detroit, if I'm being honest.
What's your perspective? How does good teams, how does the NBA view Cam Thomas? How do they value him? We know Marks doesn't, but like throughout the NBA, how do you think he's looked at? How do you think he's valued?
Okay, so this is the question that has driven me insane, because I've talked to people who work for teams. I've talked to beat writers. I've talked to, just a bunch of people about this, and I always get a different answer. Nobody knows what his value is, because some teams think that he's an all-star in the making. Some think that he's a defensive liability who should be like the last guy on the bench. There's some teams that, value him a lot, and there's some teams that don't. It's all over the place, from all-star to out of the league.
Yeah, and like I was at the opening game against Charlotte. There's just two fans in front of me. One saying how bad Cam Thomas is. The Hornet fans, and they'll say, "No, Cam Thomas is really good." What are you talking about, right? Like he really is that polarizing from the fans to the ownerships to Scott. Like, everyone, like there's no consensus on Cam Thomas. You could put 100 people, and 50 of them think he's great, and 50 of them think he's awful. He's really unique in that sense, right? There's no one else I can think of that is that polarizing.
So let me tell you, let me tell you something here. So at the beginning of the podcast, I said Anthony Anderson. Of course, I didn't interview Anthony Anderson. I meant Kenny Anderson, Nets All-Star. And I brought up Cam Thomas to him, and I thought he'd have a player-centric take. And he told me, like, yeah, he's a bucket, but there's lots of bucket getters in the league. Everybody's a bucket getter. Like, what do you do besides that? And I was a little taken back by that, thinking that he would defend Cam Thomas a little bit more, but no. Even someone of that like pedigree, like people get buckets in the NBA, and if that's all that you bring, you're gonna have to be a really good scorer. And what's Cam Thomas shooting this year in the 8 games that he played? 40%? Is that elite?
No, it's piss poor. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think he's good though, but that's just me.
Cam Thomas shooting 40-35 shooting splits. I mean, it's not real good. And we say, well, look, he's on the Nets. He can't be an efficient scorer on the Nets. Michael Porter Jr. is. Michael Porter Jr. is scoring really efficiently, very efficiently, and he's scoring in bulk. He's scoring in mass. He's scoring a lot of points. He's scoring 30-35 points a night recently, and he's doing it efficiently. So Cam Thomas is just an inefficient scorer. It's what it is. He can get to the line, so his true shooting numbers are going to be good. I think that's the one thing that's always going to be his saving grace. If he's not hitting his shot, he can still get you 20 points by getting to the line. I think that's extremely valuable. I remember watching Paul Pierce. I'm not comparing Cam Thomas to Paul Pierce. So stop
doing that, bro. Why are you comparing them to Paul Pierce?
But like Pierce would be like, 4 for 14 from the field with 25 points. He's got to the line the whole game, right? Like that's valuable. Cam Thomas can do that. I think Cam Thomas, because of his ability to shoot the three and his ability to get to the line and his ability to score in the mid-range, he's unique. He can score at any point. Even if he can't get you a bucket, he can get you 2 free throws, and he shoots free throws at 85%. He's an excellent free throw shooter. Like, to me, Cam Thomas is a very, very, very good scorer. And yes, and Kenny's right. There's a ton of bucket getters. But how many bucket getters are really as good as Cam Thomas?
You say that, and of course, thinking about every player in the NBA, I'm sure you could think of a handful of guys. Who do you want taking the last shot, tied game, fourth quarter, right? But the last couple of years with the Nets, obviously not counting the big three, Cam Thomas has shown he can be clutch. The guy's pretty clutch. And he's someone who you'd want with the confidence taking that last shot. And I don't think that's talked about enough, because not everybody has that. That is a special skill.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, your interview with Kenny Anderson. And Kenny Anderson, if you guys don't know, is the reason why I'm basically a Nets fan. I've been a Net fan since the Kenny Anderson days. He's what made me fall in love with the Nets. That was my first favorite Net. And I would still say to this day, Kenny Anderson, Stephon Marbury are my all-time favorite Nets. I love Kenny Anderson. And that comment, I remember the comment where he said he's a bucket getter. I think Kenny Anderson doesn't like the way he plays, because if Kenny Anderson just dominated the ball the way Cam Thomas did, Kenny Anderson could score 25 points a night, but Kenny Anderson moved the ball. Kenny Anderson was a pass-first point guard. Now the game has changed, but I think Kenny looks at Cam Thomas and says, I could have did that if I would have checked up a bunch of bad shots. Like, I could have averaged 25 a game. I think that's the way Kenny Anderson views Cam Thomas.
I don't know what the man's thinking, but he did say what he said when I brought up the comment about him being a bucket getter. But yeah, Kenny was definitely a pass first point guard, and we know that Cam Thomas is not a pass first shooting guard at the very least. It's so, but I don't like comparing their games, because you could go on to say that Kenny Anderson did not shoot very well from three for the majority of his career. Cam Thomas was a lot better of a 3-point shooter, right? Different games and different eras. You can't compare them, but I know what you're saying.
Because when Kenny Anderson launched a three for the 1991 New Jersey Nets, it was usually a grenade, right? It's usually because we didn't get another shot, so now I'm launching this three at the end of the shot clock, which is a bad shot, right? Like they weren't setting up threes; they didn't have him standing in the corner, right? They weren't doing that, and so the 3-point percentage thing is like it's going to be different because back in 1990,
it's a different game. It's a different era.
Totally
It's a different era. You can't compare it.
I mean that's basically all I got. It's a quick emergency show. Any closing thoughts on Cam Thomas and when you expect him to be traded? Because you expect him to play again, right?
Yeah, I think he's gonna play again. I think he's gonna get traded, like, if not at the deadline, within like a week of the deadline.
Okay, so you think he's gonna be here a little while longer?
Yeah, definitely. He'll be here in January. I would be shocked if they made a deal sooner. If they made a deal sooner, that means the Nets like love the offer, or they're so frustrated with CT that they just want him off the team.
I'm at that point. I'm there. I think they want him off the team. I think they like the way things are going right now. I think they like the way they're progressing. They like the way the rookies look. And I think they want Cam Thomas not here anymore. And I'm sure Cam Thomas doesn't want to be here. My last question is, did they mismanage this? I said from the beginning, don't even bring Cam Thomas back on a qualifying offer. That makes no sense. Whatever you trade for him, it's not going to be worth your time. He's going to cause more damage than he is good by having him here when he doesn't want to be here. Don't even offer him the qualifying offer. Just let him go. Did the Nets mismanage this with Cam Thomas this offseason?
Yes and no. Yes, they mismanaged it because there's a very good chance they may be left without anything or a very minuscule asset. But I say they also haven't, because if their evaluation said, we don't like this guy, we don't want him around, and we're just going to milk him for whatever he's worth value-wise at the trade deadline, then they did a good job then, if they don't think there's anything out there for him. But I think at least the fans kind of feel that he's worth something, so it feels a lot worse to us. But in the NBA, like we just said, there's so many takes on the guy. Some people love him, some people hate him. And if the majority of NBA guys hate him, then the Nets did a great job bringing him back on a 1-year deal and getting anything back for him.
If at the end of the day we get a bad contract in 2-2s, that was worth it to you? Like that was worth all the headaches?
No, where's the headache though?
Well, I mean, the whole thing, right? Like he took minutes. Now we have to trade him. Now he has to sign off on a trade. He took minutes away from rookies. He took shots away from rookies. Like, was this like, what did we get? 2-2s? Like, why not just let him walk? I could have kept Bufkin. I could have kept someone like that and played that guy and see how that worked out. Instead of keeping a guy I had no intentions of and I'm only going to get scraps for.
If they liked any of those guys you just mentioned, they would have kept them, and they didn't. What does that tell you?
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
I think we're not going to be able to view this correctly because we don't have the lens of being an NBA team, right? Like,
yeah,
as fans, we often overvalue players, and this may very well be a case of, listen, there's like a handful of guys who could put up 20 points a game if you give them, 15 shots a game, who can't play defense. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so tough. It depends on how you value the guy. And are we biased as Nets fans? Maybe. It's just very difficult because I don't think most of the people know what's going on. Even in the NBA, they're not sure what the other team thinks his value is.
He is the most polarizing player in the NBA. Like, I can't even think of who's second, but he's first. Like, he's the most polarizing guy in the NBA. Maybe Russell Westbrook was that polarizing a couple of years ago when he was at the end of his career. But that's the only other guy that comes to mind. Like the people are that torn on Cam Thomas. And now we're gonna see what we can get for him. I don't think it's gonna be much. But Pete, give yourself let us have one final plug. Let everyone know where they can find you, and thank you for coming on.
Sure, you guys can follow me at NetFans, on Twitter and YouTube. Like I said before, I talk to team beat writers, people around the team. I've interviewed Kenny Anderson, former Nets All-Star. I was recently put in an article for the New York Post. All that good stuff. Check it out. And let's go Nets.
My favorite Brooklyn Net insider, Pete over at Nets Fans. Appreciate your time, Pete. From December,
Not an insider.
My favorite Nets insider, Pete over at Nets Fans. It's December 9th, 2025. From Texas to the world. Thank y'all, and God bless.